Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So I am Disney Avenger and joining me is
Rogue One Trash.
And we're going to do a spoiler review for Avengers Endgame. So if you guys have not seen the movie, just go see it first. Why are you here, right? Go see the movie first and then come back to this video. And we're going to do a whole spoiler deep analysis review of this movie. So just to give you guys a brief plot synopsis, the movie basically follows the events after Avengers Infinity War, which came out last year. If you guys remember, when Thanos collected all the stones, he did the snap, and most of our friends and heroes were turned to dust. So as a result, most of the Avengers that were not affected by the snap had to find a way to get the stones back, to find a way to defeat Thanos. In order to do so, they had to go do some time travel adventures and collect all 6 Infinity Stones, and that way they could undo the snap and bring back their friends. So, going into this movie, first of all, what expectations did you have regarding this movie?
Okay, well, I know we were talking about who was gonna die.
That was the big topic.
Yeah.
That was a big topic.
So we had it down to either like Tony or Captain America was gonna die. Mm-hmm. And I think we were talking about how, we kind of knew they were gonna do something with time travel because you could see from the photos, the set photos, that they had those little devices on their hands.
Right here. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of fans called a lot of things. I think you were like one of the fans that probably called like the most things that actually happened in the movie. But like right from the get-go, like a lot of fans, they were like, oh, Clint's family's gonna get dusted. So those were a couple of things that I was expecting.
Yeah, I will agree with that, because before this movie even came out, if you guys have been exploring on YouTube or anywhere else on social media, there's all these theories and videos and whatnot of like who's gonna die. It was narrowed down to either Cap or Tony. If they're even gonna make another gauntlet, who's gonna wield the gauntlet to undo the snap, stuff like that. And then yes, Hawkeye coming into, being involved in the plot. Obviously he was affected by the snap due to his family.
He just did.
So yeah, so there were some things, but even though some of the theories were right in a sense, but then some of them were not. One of the theories that I found interesting that did not happen in the movie, Doctor Strange having a bigger role.
Yeah.
Because he saw all the millions of possibilities, I thought he probably did something to the time stone or was going to find a way to trick Thanos, lure him in somehow into a different multiverse or a different realm. But that didn't happen. Doctor Strange just let things play out the way they should have played out, so to say. That was just me. I thought Doctor Strange would have a bigger role. I don't know if there was something you expected but didn't happen.
Yeah, I heard that theory too. I heard that they were like probably going to go back in time, find Doctor Strange, and that he was going to use the time stone to like trap Thanos in like a time loop.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. But that's fine. Regardless, the movie was pretty good. So if you guys have been keeping up, this movie just in its first weekend made $350 million domestically and then $1.2 billion worldwide in just one weekend.
Made a lot of money.
How is that even possible? But I knew this movie was going to make lots of money, but the fact that it made this amount of money is crazy.
Yeah.
And now it just already passed the $2 billion mark. It already passed Titanic. And it's on, now they're saying it's on its way to be Avatar, which who knows, we'll be keeping our eyes on the lookout for that, but it will be an amazing accomplishment for Marvel and Disney.
It shows you just how big this movie is. Like the fact that it's like the #1 movie and it had like such a big opening weekend.
Right? It's huge. I just remember people like who analyze box office numbers, and they were saying, okay, maybe 280 million is likely, but 300 million at the opening weekend seems unlikely, because how many people could fit in the movie theater? Is it even possible to show that many screenings in a theater? There's just no way, but this movie proved them wrong big time. So I guess it's amazing to see how they were able to do that, and how even in other countries, it just kind of goes to show that the Marvel brand is not only popular here in the U.S., it's popular everywhere around the world. That people in other parts of the world were just running to the theater to go see this movie, to the point where even like I guess you could say like smaller countries where it's more like a smaller community, everybody knows everybody kind of thing. Even people like fans, Marvel fans in those areas were shocked to see how many people in their town went to the theater to go see the movie. So this was a big worldwide phenomenon, so to say. And do you think it could ever be duplicated again?
I don't think this can ever be duplicated again. Like the Russo brothers, like what they did, I don't think it can be replicated again, because like they themselves have said, we're probably never gonna do like this big a cast on screen all at the same time ever again. So I think that's one of the reasons why it was so big.
So big, yeah. And go ahead.
And I was reading some articles talking about how like movie theaters had to play it back to back on the day of the premiere because they had to fit that many people.
And also some of the theaters were like, what, 24 hours?
Yeah.
They were open for 24 hours, which is very rare, but I guess the demand for this movie was so high, they're like, no, we might as well do it.
Yeah.
So, congrats to Marvel and Disney for accomplishing this huge success. I mean, a lot of people are saying that this movie, or even just the MCU as a whole, is this generation's Star Wars.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, because Star Wars, we're talking about the original Star Wars back in the 70s and 80s. They achieved a lot of stuff too in like how they did the effects, the storytelling, a sci-fi adventure for people during that time haven't seen something like that before. But now we're like up the scale. Now it's like getting, like you say, bringing a whole cast together in this action-packed science fiction, I guess you could say, also cosmic adventure. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, first of all?
Well, I was telling Disney Avenger that, like kind of like how our parents as kids, they went to the movie theater to see Star Wars and they had like all these people lined up because it was a really, new and innovative thing that they were doing, like with the technology, with the story. It was something that nobody had seen before. So this is kind of like our generation Star Wars. It's like, it's going to be the movie that we're showing like our future generations, like, hey, I went to see this movie. I went to the premiere.
I got the ticket to prove it. And then, I mean, just imagine, like you said, for future generations. I mean, we'll be telling our kids, and those kids will be telling their kids about how big these movies were. It's just insane. But it just shows you how, I just feel like in this decade, the 2010s, the Marvel Cinematic Universe really defined this decade in entertainment. Like, it's going to go down in history for how they defined the 2010s. Like, Star Wars was for the 70s and the 80s. I feel like the MCU is for this decade, the 2010s. Like, it's a cultural importance, so to say, historic importance as well.
Yes.
So that was like our thoughts about it. And also, where would you rank this movie in like terms of the whole MCU? Like, there's 22 movies now in total. Like, where would you rank this?
Definitely at the top, because we're never gonna get a movie like this again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Russo brothers like really delivered on giving the fans like what they wanted to see. Like, people call it fan service, but it's like, no, fans wanted to see this because it's in the comics, because it's like some of the most unique and interesting moments they get to see their favorite characters in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they really like delivered.
Yeah, I think all the Marvel movies directed by the Russo brothers are in the top for me. I mean, at first I was thinking about this, and due to all the hype, I was putting Endgame as number one, but then after watching it 3 times, I think it'd probably be either my number 2 or number 3 favorite. I still have Civil War as my favorite.
Okay.
Captain America Civil War is still my favorite, only because it kind of shows like how even government politics can even affect not just regular people like you and me, but even superheroes in capes, so to say. And then I just love the whole ideology between Cap versus Iron Man. And plus it came out in 2016, which was during a time when the U.S. nation itself was divided. Mm-hmm. In terms of like the election and whatnot. But that's a whole different topic. But I do agree in terms of like the Marvel movies directed by the Russos. You got The Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and now Endgame. Those movies are like at the top list of the MCU for me. So That's my take on it. But the Russos do an amazing job with their movies. So we're gonna go ahead and get into an analysis of the characters, primarily the characters on the poster, because those were the ones that had the top billing, so to say, and the ones that received more. Like they went on the actors went more on press tours, press conferences. So I wanted to focus more on those characters that were on the poster. So first we're going to start off with Rocket Raccoon from the Guardians of the Galaxy. What do you think about his role in this movie?
So I think he was like really funny, and I really like his moments with Thor because he got to be like that voice of reason for Thor, and he got to like sort of like literally slap Thor and be like, we can't save your family, Thor, but we can save my family. And Rocket lost like all his family.
Yeah.
And I expected him to have like a little bit more time with Nebula, but he got most of his time with Thor.
With Thor, yeah. I do like when he slapped Thor. That was funny. Like giving him a wake-up call. And I like how he also said, going off of what you said, because both characters, when you think about it, Thor and Rocket, they lost everybody close to them. But even Rocket had to tell Thor, I'm sorry that you lost, your family and whatnot. But can you at least do something for me where my family, they're only kind of gone. So there's still a chance for them. Can you just please, basically help me out, so to say. There's still hope for other people. So he was trying to make him realize what they're trying to do on this mission is a good thing, to help others out. And regarding about him spending more screen time with Nebula, I thought we were going to get to see more screen time of Rocket and Tony.
Yeah.
Because they're like the tech geniuses. So I was hoping to see a little bit more of that, but it didn't happen, which is fine. But he had some cool moments. I mean, I remember when Rocket was fixing on like the time machine and everything, and Tony's like, "Hey," he says like Roger or something like that. He's like, "It's Rocket." And then also when Stark, Hulk, and Rocket are working on the gauntlet, and they're like putting the stones on properly, making sure it goes to plan. And they're all like calm and relaxed and quiet. Out of nowhere, you hear Rocket go boom, and it like scares the crap out of Tony Stark, and Rocket's just laughing his tail off. So I thought that was really funny. You know what? Really, there was a moment in the movie that made me really scared for Rocket. Was when he couldn't breathe. Like remember when the Avengers headquarters got blown up?
Yeah. And
he was like, I can't breathe. Like I don't know what it was, but it's just. I mean, some people say, the fact that we care about a raccoon in danger, it kind of shows you how much we love these characters. Because I was really scared for him, but then good thing War Machine came to help. But I was like, man, like, all these, like, it kind of really goes to show how much you really do care about these characters, even the ones that are the furry ones. So, and also him protecting Groot, that was nice during the final battle. Because he's like, I'm not losing my son again.
That's his son right
That's
there.
his son. So I thought Rocket had a pretty good role.
Yeah, he did.
And he has some hilarious moments too. Like I love his like when he was talking to Ant-Man and Ant-Man's like, "Oh, we're gonna go to space or something." He's like, "Oh, you want to go to space? You want to go to space, puppy?" It's like a raccoon should not be petting a human. That's just how the tables have turned. The tables have turned. So I don't know if there's anything else on Rocket you wanted to add, but I thought his role was pretty good in this.
Yeah, he had a lot of like nice, funny moments and a lot of nice emotional moments too.
Yeah.
So,
and then again, particularly with Thor, it seems like him and Thor are they're it's like because they met in the Infinity War, and they went off to Nebula the leader in Infinity War, and now the Russo brothers have that relationship continue in Endgame when they go to 2013 Asgard. Yeah. So you see their relationship continue to grow, so to say, their friendship. So I like that how they continued with that. Yeah. Again, I kind of wish he had more interaction with Tony Stark, but that's fine. But I also like what Black Widow would joke around with Rocket. She would say, I received messages from a raccoon, nothing makes sense, or oh, he eats garbage, he's a raccoon, and stuff like that. So I thought that was funny. Now, going on to our next character, Ant-Man. What do you think about his role in this? I thought he was the best one.
Yeah, he was probably one of like the MVPs.
Yes.
And it was like really cool to see him like actually have to like think on his feet, because he usually lets Hope or Hank do the thinking for him. So in this movie, he like really had to use his brain to like come up with a solution, and it was also like really like emotional to see him, like reunite with Cassie and to see how much time had passed.
Right, right. Okay, so before we go into any more detail on Ant-Man, I do need to ask a question though about Cassie. Do you think she got too big within those 5 years?
Yes. They picked a really old-looking actress.
Because I'm like, wow. Well, it kind of. I will say this: when Ant-Man sees her for the first time, he's like, "You're so big." It's like that's what we were thinking. You're so big. So it's like his reaction was also for our reaction.
Yeah.
You're so big. But like I also said this before, and I don't know if you remember this, but I don't know how old the actress is, but I'm guessing it's just one of those things in Hollywood where they pick like 20-something-year-olds to play teenagers, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess it's a thing that tends to happen in Hollywood. I'm looking at you, Riverdale. You do that a lot, but yeah. So, but say she was like what 9 last time we saw her in Ant-Man and the Wasp, 8 or 9, so she has to be what by now?
Like 14.
14.
I feel like Lila Barton looked like a 14-year-old more than Cassie did.
Yeah, so, yeah, I kind of agree. Maybe Cassie's just tall. A tall girl.
Yeah.
I don't know, but again, in the words of Ant-Man, you're so big. So she got tall. So I thought Ant-Man had the more hilarious moments. Like between him and Rocket, he had funny moments as well.
Yeah.
I thought he did. And I love that, like you said earlier, he had to use this time, because he's not really into science a lot. So, but in this time around, in order to get his friends back, he had to use
his brain.
Yeah, because he's, like you said, he's no more for comedic relief. But in this time around, he had to let the Avengers know, like, hey, there is another way to get our friends back. I don't know if it will work, but we gotta try and see what happens. So that's why he suggests time travel. So in a sense, if it wasn't for Ant-Man, the Avengers would have never been able to get the stones or been able to defeat Thanos. And, past Thanos. But you get the idea.
Yeah, he got the snowball rolling.
Yeah, he got the show rolling. And plus, well, okay, some may argue that the rat saved the universe. Because if it wasn't for the rat, Ant-Man wouldn't have gone out of the quantum realm, and he wouldn't have been the one to tell the Avengers of time travel. So I think the rat and Ant-Man are the MVPs of this movie. They're one of the MVPs of this movie. But I do wanted to point something out that made me laugh of Ant-Man. He always checks out Captain America's physique.
He's a Captain America fanboy.
But like,
he's like his biggest fanboy.
The reason why I bring that up, when I watched it for a third time, I mean, everybody remembers the most important line, his most important line in the movie, when Tony Stark is making fun of Cap's suit from New York, and he's like, I'm sorry, Rogers, but I never realized this till now that suit did nothing for your ass. And Ant-Man comes and defends Cap. I think you look great, Cap. As far as I'm concerned, that's America's ass. So it's like, and then plus, if you remember in Civil War, when Ant-Man touched Cap like this on his biceps, it was like, so I'm just like, no wonder why Ant-Man was on Team Cap, because he's checking him out. That's why. So I mean, between touching his biceps and checking out his ass, it's like, you must really love Captain America. I don't know. That's just what I noticed.
He's a really big fanboy.
He's a fan of Cap, which is cool. It's cool with me. But even then, I think both Rocket and Ant-Man. We'll get into this later, obviously, in regards to Captain America. But I think Ant-Man and Rocket kind of also admire Cap's leadership. Because, like remember when Cap is giving them orders, like their missions and whatnot, what to do, the teams, and Rocket's like, he's really good at that. And Ant was like, yeah, I know, right? So it's like, they admire that quality of Cap, especially Ant-Man, since he's all fanboy of Captain America and his beautiful physique. But yeah, so it's amazing how Ant-Man, and you know what's funny? I will say this. we'll get into this a little more in regards to another Marvel character, but it seems to me Ant-Man and the Wasp was one of the important movies for Endgame.
Yeah, they were.
Because Ant-Man and the Wasp, it did fine at the box office, but it wasn't like a mega billion-dollar hit. But I felt like it should have made that amount of money because it was that movie that kind of gives you the clues for Endgame and what the Avengers have to do. Again, if it wasn't for the Rat, or some may say, and Ant-Man, none of this would have happened. They wouldn't have been able to solve the problem, so to say. Mm-hmm. So Ant-Man's a very integral part of this movie. Yeah. Yeah. So that's our take on Ant-Man. I loved his role in this movie.
Oh, and then the part with the tacos. He's like,
it's just so funny. He's laying out his lunch, and then you see Rocket and Nebula on their spaceship coming down, and all the winds like, and his poor taco goes flying away, and then War Machine lands and scares the crap out of Ant-Man.
Hey, regular size man.
And then Hulk comes back and gives him 2 tacos. That was sweet.
That's sweet.
That was sweet. And it was just like, oh, thank you. So, and yeah, I loved Ant-Man in this movie. I think Paul Rudd does an amazing job. I can tell he's having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but he seems to be having a lot of fun when he's with the other Marvel actors,
especially Jeremy Renner.
Oh yeah, if you guys seen the interviews, you will know. You'll know what we're talking about. So now going on to Nebula, I thought she had an amazing journey, an amazing arc in this movie.
Yeah, she did. I think. I know you were saying how some people view her as like a plot device, but she wasn't. She was like much more than that. She had like so many like good character moments, and you can see like how much they developed her as a character. Yeah.
I mean, going off of what you said about the plot device, I have heard people saying that like, oh, they're just using her for the plot to bring past Thanos. Yeah, some may argue. I'm not gonna say no, but from what I could say is. Whatever you guys may think, she was probably used as a plot device and whatever to bring back past Thanos. But I felt like you could take a better look as to who she is, what she stands for, more of her personality. You kind of get more of her pain and suffering. Yeah. You understand more of it. Like, she lost her sister. So, and plus, then President Thanos gets his head cut off. So she's obviously the only survivor of her family. But what I found interesting about her character is that even though her sister Gamora, present-day Gamora, is gone, she was still willing to work with Rocket Raccoon, who she does not get along with, and she was willing to work with the Avengers, who she just, so to say, met, to go back in time and get the stones to save the Guardians of the Galaxy, whom she doesn't even really get along with. So she was willing to go through that adventure to get them back. Because again, like, I mean, if you remember Guardians 1 and 2, does she even really get along with the Guardians of the Galaxy? No. Not really, but the fact that she was willing to go back in time to get the stones and bring them back kind of shows a lot about her character. Yeah. It kind of makes you see that she really does care.
Yeah, and I feel like she was sort of honoring, like, Gamora's memory, because I feel like the Nebula that we got in this movie, I felt like she turned into somebody that Gamora would want her to be, or like she had the thoughts of like, oh, what would Gamora do? Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's how they like changed her as a character,
like honoring her sister. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I like how you bring that up. It's not like, I don't want to say she's taking Gamora's spot or filling in her shoes, but she's just trying to take care of the friends of her sister. Yeah. You know, like, she knows that Gamora cares about them, so she's trying to take care of, I guess what you could say, like, she's trying to take care of what she has left, in a sense, of Gamora, which are the Guardians. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've noticed. But I think Nebula had a very interesting role in this. She played a very crucial part. And plus, I thought she was going to wield the gauntlet. There was a lot of theories saying she was going to wield the gauntlet due to the comics.
And we thought that she was, like, going to give the final blow for Thanos, because that's how it is in the comics, but I guess they didn't decide it like that.
Which is fine, I guess, because I know, like, the screenwriters were saying they'd rather focus on the heroes, 6 main Avengers who you've been on this journey with for the past decade, which makes sense. I mean, Nebula's been in what, 4 movies, 2 Avenger movies, and 2 Guardian movies, so that makes 4. But still, it would have been cool to see more of a father versus daughter fight. You know, she could have been like going against her father, like you did this to me. I'm getting revenge on you for what you did to my sister. Took the only family that I had who really did care about me. I'm just saying that would have been cool to see more of that.
And you know, I think she probably could have survived the gauntlet because she's more machine. And you know how when she like reached for this power stone, like nothing happened to her hand.
Right.
That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. She just got like a little bit melted, but she was fine. You know, afterward, she was able to keep going, so to say. And I thought she also had a nice interaction with War Machine. Because, like, speaking of that part when they're getting the Power Stone from Morag, is it? From the planet Morag. And Rhodey tells her, well, she says to Rhodey, I wasn't always like this. And Rhodey says, well, neither was I, but we gotta work with what we got. And Nebula's like, yep. And it kind of goes to show you, like, because Nebula has been through so much.
Yeah.
She's been beaten down, taken apart by her own father, Thanos. So, and it kind of goes to show no matter how many times you're beaten down physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it may be, you still gotta try and keep going. So, and that's what Nebula's trying to do. She's still trying to go forward, so to say.
Yeah, and Rhodey as well.
And Rhodey as well. So that was a nice interaction. I think out of all the characters that Nebula interacted with this movie, I think for me that one was like the most memorable.
Yeah, well, it was a really
and
nice.
with her sister, I guess too. But
yeah,
but I like the one with what she and Rhodey say when they're on their mission. What do you also think about Nebula and Tony Stark at the very beginning of the movie?
Oh, okay. I thought that part was so like. It was also really sweet because like Nebula's not a very like emotional person, and yet she like understood that Tony didn't have a lot of time. Yeah. So like just like the little like small gestures, like covering him with a blanket, I thought that was also like really sweet, and you could see that you know, she felt sorry for what he was going through.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what I also kind of realized? Well, we'll get into this a little bit more on the Iron Man character, but since, like we mentioned before, Nebula has been through so much. She's been through hell, basically. And when Tony asked her about the game that they were playing with the thing,
like hand football.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, "Oh, was that fun?" She's like, "Yeah." It's like she never had fun before, so it was kind of like her first time to like play a game and know what it means to have fun and, you know, have a friend. Like, oh, I wouldn't say they're close friends, but at least just enjoy the time of now, so to say, just to have a little fun with a game. So I thought that was cool because she's always like worried about killing people and whatnot. So to see her kind of just enjoy a little quick game was cool to see. Yeah, that's what I thought. So so that was our thoughts on Nebula. Again, I think Karen Gillan did a nice job on her character in this movie. Now, speaking of our next Marvel character, we're now going to go into Captain Marvel. So tell me, what do you think of Captain Marvel?
Okay, well, people were concerned about how much screen time she was going to have in this movie because, you know, they were saying, oh, she's going to take over the movie. She's not going to leave enough time for the original Avengers. I think
she's too powerful.
She's too powerful. Yeah. The movie's going to end, like, way too quickly. But she's barely in the movie.
She's only in there for, like, 15 minutes. Yeah. It's like, all of this noise for that? Yeah. So, but yeah, I totally agree. I expected more screen time. And to be honest, in Infinity War at the very end, you know how Nick Fury pages her, or, you know, sends the message to Captain Marvel, and you see her little symbol. I thought that I would be like, okay, so Captain Marvel's going to come in. I'm not going to say, like, save the day, because obviously, you know, we want to focus on the original Avengers and whatnot. But I just thought she would be a guide. And since she's cosmic, you know, I mean, yeah, at the very beginning of the movie, you do see her kind of guide some of the Avengers to Thanos' little garden. And she helps them take him down. But I thought, like, throughout the rest of the movie, she would be a guide and like through other space territories, like probably go on a mission with Thor and Iron Man on one side of space, and then go with Rocket and Nebula on another side of space. Maybe there was a different way to get the stones and stuff like that. So I was just expecting more of her in terms of doing that, like be a guide to them in the space area. But no, she was like, oh no, I got other things to take care of on other planets because they don't have the Avengers. They don't have a team like you guys, so I gotta help them out. And then she was gone.
Yeah, and then she was, she has a line that was like really controversial with fans that was like, oh, you didn't win because you didn't have me. And it came across as like really like way too self-confident. And it's like, well, this time they still didn't have you. So what are you talking about?
It's like, oh, 5 years too late. I don't know. But I agree. I mean, with Captain Marvel, there's a whole controversy regarding Captain Marvel. But I just find it funny how people were worried that she would take over in the movie and all that other stuff. And it's like, oh, there was nothing really to worry about.
Yeah.
She wasn't not in the movie that much. She was there when she needed to be there.
I think so too.
Yeah, because again, like we discussed earlier, someone said if she was in the movie throughout the whole movie in regards to the whole time travel mission, then the movie would have ended quickly because she is so powerful. But what's funny is regarding Captain Marvel, I want to make a comparison between her and Black Panther because both of their movies came out before an Avengers movie. So you had Black Panther, it came out before Infinity War, and then you had Captain Marvel, which came out before Endgame. And both of them were successful, they made $1 billion. But what's interesting is that in their solo movies, nothing of the plot has to do with the Avengers. Mm-hmm. Like, in the Black Panther movie, there's nothing, like, no mention of any Infinity Stone or of Thanos, none of that. And in Captain Marvel, yeah, there is the mention of the Tesseract, but there is no hint as to the threat of Thanos or anything like that. So, and then when the Avengers movie does come around, both characters have limited screen time, but when they are on screen, I guess it's cool to see what they do, if that makes any sense. So it's like, oh, okay, you know, I thought there would be more of them, but there wasn't. So, like, for example, in Infinity War, even though the Wakandan battle was amazing, I loved, that was like one of the best fight scenes in the Infinity War movie, one of the cool battles. But again, Black Panther got little screen time compared to the other Avengers, and then Captain Marvel in this Endgame movie, she got little screen time compared to the other Avengers. But I guess they're just trying to set up the future Avengers. So what do you think of her role going beyond, though?
I think she's probably gonna be like the next Iron Man for the next phase of the MCU. Like, she has this personality, and it seems like she's really gonna be leading the MCU. Mm-hmm. The only other person I could see besides her leading the MCU would probably be Falcon. Mm-hmm. But it seems like they're really setting it up for her to be the next leader, and I think that's why Brie Larson like went on the press tour with Robert Downey Jr. And that's why she was like in a lot of interviews as well, because they're trying to get her used to
and featured on the poster.
Yeah,
even though she wasn't in the movie a lot, she was on the poster. So, but I will say this regarding of her being like probably one of the main Avengers in Phase 4 and beyond. Well, because my theory is, and what some other people have noticed, since some of the original Avengers are probably no more, that the new ones like if you notice in the original Avengers, you have the main three. It would be Cap, Iron Man, and Thor, right? Mm-hmm. And some people are probably theorizing that the new Avengers, or the new three, are going to be Captain Marvel, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange. And like I said this before, you got a captain, a rich guy, and a guy with a magic red cape. So, I mean, you got your three right there. The captain, the rich guy, and a guy with a magic cape. Mm-hmm. So, there's your main three. But that's just my theory on Captain Marvel. You know what I do wish, though? Since she didn't have a lot of screen time, we didn't even see her get to interact with Nick Fury.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been, okay, like, at the very beginning, you see like them looking at the profile pictures of people who they lost due to the snap, and you see her look at Nick Fury, and she obviously looks upset. But then at the very end of the movie, when all the Avengers are together at the funeral, there's Carol standing there, and then behind her is Nick Fury, and then even after the funeral ceremony is over, you didn't even get to see just a quick little snippet of Carol Danvers and Nick Fury interacting. Mm-hmm. You know, she could have at least given him a hug and say, "Oh, it's been so long. How you been?" I don't know, something like that. But no, that wasn't even in the movie. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we didn't get to see like a lot of interactions between characters we wanted to see because of the pacing, which we're going to talk about later. But I think it's just you can only fit so much into 3 hours.
That's true. Yeah. it's a heck of a project. Yeah. Now, what did you think of? So 2 things. First off, what did you think of her new hairstyle?
Okay, I like her new hairstyle because it's like true to the comics, and mm-hmm. I like the short hair.
I like the short hair too. Mm-hmm. It works for her look. And I like what Rocket says. So what? You gotta go get a new haircut? She's like, listen, Furface, I gotta take care of other planets. So, but. Some people are saying that it's probably hinting her sexuality. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that because regarding Captain Marvel, you know, Brie Larson and even Tessa Thompson have been
pushing for it.
Which is, even then, I thought Captain Marvel, she didn't interact with Fury, and then you see Brie Larson and Tessa Thompson pushing for their characters to become a pairing, and even those 2 characters, Valkyrie and Captain Marvel, didn't interact. There was like one scene of them together when all the women came together, but even then they didn't really interact.
Well, I guess I saw her interact more with Thor and probably Rhodey, and that was like a little nice nod for like the Rhodey Carol pairing in the comics.
I saw a lot of people saying that. It was only for like 5 seconds.
I know, it was only for like 5 seconds. But yeah, I actually thought that like Valkyrie and Thor were going to be a couple because it seemed like, you know, that's kind of how they set it up in Thor Ragnarok, but it seems like they're just friends.
For now. Just friends. Or who else? Who knows what they're going to do, because now there's a new person that Tessa Thompson, Brie Larson, well, a new shipping that they're trying to push in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But regarding the whole A-Force female shot, what did you think of that? All the female characters together.
Oh, that was really cool to see. I would definitely see like an A-Force movie.
That was cool.
And it was nice how Okoye was like, you know, she's not alone, which was what Black Widow said in Infinity War. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like honoring Black Widow's memory. Yeah. And it was kind of sad, like, not to see Black Widow there. Yeah. With all those females.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed that Black Widow wasn't there. It would have been cool to see her there, but it was a cool shot. It was a cool shot. You get to see. It was so funny because I've seen memes where Peter Parker's like this helpless, defenseless child, and then you see all the Marvel women, like moms, coming to help him. Like,
moms.
They're his moms. They're like, don't worry, kid. We got you. We're your mom. We're going to protect you, okay? So you see Carol Danvers only the gauntlet. And even Scarlet Witch, she's like, don't worry. And then Okoye comes in and she's got help. And you see Gamora, Mantis, Shuri, Valkyrie in the back, Pepper Potts landing with her helmet. Then Wasp comes in too. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then Peter's like, yeah.
I actually kind of like that part where Carol's like, hey, Peter Parker.
Oh, yeah. So, hey, Peter Parker.
It kind of reminded me of, like, when Tony's like, hey, Spider-Man. You know, in Homecoming. And so it kind of reminds me of
that. Yeah, I get you. Okay. That sassy type of voice kind of thing. Okay, I get you now. But I love that show. Some people were saying that the whole female Avengers coming together in that one scene was a little cringy. Like, they said it felt forced. To me, I don't know if it's just me, maybe because I'm a girl, whatever, I may be biased, but I didn't feel like it was forced.
Well, I felt kind of like it was just, like...
a nod
to the scene in Infinity War, because it was so cool to, like, see in Infinity War, like, that pairing between like all the Marvel women.
Yeah.
And this was just that, but like on a bigger scale.
On a bigger scale.
Yeah.
Minus Black Widow.
Minus Black Widow.
Minus Black Widow. But yeah, I really liked that shot too. And it was just nice to see Spider-Man. It's like he's because he's still a teenager, you know. He's still underage. He may act immature sometimes, but it's nice to see that even that he's got help, even not just from like the male superheroes, but even the female superheroes. Like they got his back too, and like it's like, don't worry, Peter, we got you. We're gonna take care of you. We're your moms. Okay, we're your moms also. We're gonna take care of you. So yeah, that's my take on Captain Marvel. I just expected a little more of her, but she wasn't heavily featured, which is fine, I guess. But probably going forward, we will see more of her. And speaking of Captain Marvel and the whole female scene, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Okoye, because Danai Gurira's character was also on the poster. But I don't know if you remember, there was controversy that her name wasn't at the top of the poster. And fans were criticizing Marvel and Disney for not putting her name on the poster. And then they finally did. But then when I saw the movie, it's kind of like, why was she even on the poster at all?
Yeah.
She wasn't in the movie until the final. Well, like she had her little brief scene in the Avengers headquarters when she's talking to Black Widow. But then you don't see her again until the final battle. So I'm like, she was in the movie for like, what, 6 minutes?
Yeah, I guess she's too busy taking care of Wakanda.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, because it's just me thinking that since she's on the poster and Danai Gurira went on all these press tours and press conferences for the movie, kind of made you think she's probably going to be more involved. But then when I look at the trailers and the TV spots and the promo art, her character is not really featured at all, so then I'm not surprised. But it would have been cool to see something. Like, it would have been cool, like, say they're making the whole time machine or the Stark Gauntlet, and they brought in some vibranium from Wakanda to help out. Like, that would have been a nice touch.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Yeah, that's my opinion. But like you said, she did have to take care of Wakanda because they lost King T'Challa. They lost Princess Shuri. So who... And then I don't know anything about the mother, the queen, so her story or her fate wasn't as hinted as much, but that is true. She had to take care of the Wakandans or what they had left, so to say.
Yeah, but it would have been nice to like see her, you know, pitch in a little bit more. But I guess like the Russos just didn't write it in or something.
Yeah, there was nowhere to fit her character except the final battle, probably. Which I understand, but it just would have been nice to see. And to be honest, I kind of wish Shuri wasn't dusted.
Yeah, because you can see her work with Tony Stark.
Yeah, it would have been nice. Like, okay, they're working on this new gauntlet with trying to put the stones in. It would have been cool to see Hulk, Iron Man, Rocket Raccoon, and Shuri work on it together. And then you can see Shuri being the smart one, like Mr. Stark. Dr. Banner, you're doing it all wrong.
This is how you do it.
Okay? The calculations say this. I would have loved to see that, but we're never gonna see that.
Yeah.
Tears, man, tears. But I just think that Shuri should not have been one of the ones to get dusted. And plus, it would have been cool to see how she would react to her brother being dusted. You get me? But we had to wait till the final battle to see her again. That's just my take on it. I just wish there was a little bit more Wakandan flavor in this movie.
Like, maybe they could have built the gauntlet in Wakanda.
Yeah, to get the resources and the vibranium and whatnot. But, whatever. So now I'm going on to War Machine. What do you think about his role?
Okay, well, I think he's always, like, put in that, like, supporting character role. So he's, like, always, like, the backup. But he did have, like, some good moments, and I think, like, one of, like, the nice moments he had was when he was with Nebula, and, you know, he made that comment of, like, you know, you gotta work with what you got.
Yeah.
That was, like, really nice to see. I always like seeing, like, characters who, like, have disabilities, but they, like, don't let those disabilities get in the way. So that was nice to see. And we're gonna talk about it a little bit more, but, like, his reaction to what happened to Tony, like, in that final battle, I think that was also, like, really important to have him there.
Yeah, yeah. He has. It's funny that you say that because yeah, he is always like the supporting character, the backup character, and he's known for his one-liners. Like even in this movie, he has some one-liners. Like when he sees Star-Lord for the first time, he's like, "So he's an idiot," or when Thor says, "You know what's running through my veins? Cheese whiz." So he has like some funny one-liners in this movie, but he also has some surprisingly emotional, not like too emotional, but like some nice scenes with the other characters, like with Nebula about the disabilities, and then with his friend Tony, and trying to make like just trying to put on a brave face for his friends, so to say.
Yeah.
So like little moments like that was nice to see from that character.
And like I've always considered him to be like one of the original Avengers because he was like right there with Iron Man from the very beginning. So he got a little bit like more screen time this time, which was nice to see. And I'm like really gonna miss like his friendship with Tony.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. We're gonna miss the whole Tony and Rhodes relationship.
The bromance.
Romance. And it's funny how, I think we mentioned this before, his name is James Rhodes.
Yeah.
And then he's Tony Stark's friend. And then Steve Rogers' friend is named James Buchanan Barnes. It's like, what's up with all these best friends named James? They're the sidekick to the hero named James. So, but yeah, I think War Machine, he did what he needed to do in this movie. So his role was not... It wasn't like an amazing arc journey, but he was there to be there, so to say.
Yeah.
That's just how I felt. Like, oh, okay, he's there. Now, going on to Hulk. Now, we're getting to like the main ones, guys.
Yeah, the originals.
The originals. So, Professor Hulk, Bruce Banner, and the Incredible Hulk. Come on.
They finally learned how to work together.
It's like Bruce Banner and Incredible Hulk had a baby, and you get Hulk.
I was kind of mad that they didn't show it on screen. Like, they didn't
his
show it on
transformation?
screen, like him figuring it out. Like, okay, like I can't be Bruce Banner, I can't be Hulk. Let's just
morph together.
work together.
You wanted it on screen to see.
I wanted it on screen
within those 5 years.
Yeah, like just him, like maybe like clicking and like realizing like okay. Or, like, maybe having a conversation with Hulk. Kind of like in Infinity War when he's all talking to Hulk. Like, I would have liked to see something like that.
Talking to himself.
Yeah, but we didn't get it.
I've heard some people were a little upset because he didn't have a lot of action scenes.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, he didn't. He was more, well, since he is now... these two persons in one, like he's literally now two in one. He literally morphed two things in one. Okay, so he's like a big guy, but he's all brain. So he's basically just a gentle giant. I mean, just Bruce Banner alone, since he has the brain of Bruce Banner and not the Incredible Hulk, it's like he's the type of guy who would never hurt a fly.
Yeah.
He has that type of personality. So I mean, just, like, even when they're in the New York 2012 mission, and Captain America tells him, how about you smash some things along the way? He's like, okay. It's just not in, like, aside from the Incredible Hulk, aside from the Hulk, just Bruce Banner alone. Like, it's not in his nature to do that. It's in the Hulk's nature, but not Banner's nature to be all, like...
destroying everything.
Yeah. So it's like he has the size of the Hulk, but not the brain of the Hulk. He has the dorkiness and the genius of Banner.
Yeah.
So that's just what I've noticed. He's a gentle giant.
It would have also been cool to have him like voluntarily control that and be like, okay, Hulk, like you take over for now, and then like see him like go like toe to toe with like Thanos again for like a rematch, but we didn't get that either.
No, we didn't. No, they didn't. Okay, speaking of the final battle, we'll get into it a little more later, but also there was no spectacular moment or a memorable moment of the Hulk in the final battle.
Yeah.
Just when he helps War Machine and Rocket Raccoon because they're drowning, that was it.
And when he wields the gauntlet.
And when he wields the gauntlet, which I will admit, that was a nice scene because it kind of. I like what he says. We gotta make this worth it because he's obviously mourning the death of
Natasha.
Black Widow. Yeah. So the fact that he's willing to go through this and get his arm fried up, that's like a brave act for him to do. So my respects to you, Hulk. My respects to you. And plus he's the one who brought all the dusted characters back.
Yeah.
So if Hulk didn't snap his fingers, we wouldn't have that cool final battle scene.
Yeah, and I really liked how he tried to like bring Nat back, and it's like, oh, you can't bring her back.
Yeah, what's done is done, basically, for soul for a soul. And regarding the whole Hulk and Black Widow relationship, I don't ship it.
We don't ship it.
We don't ship it. Do you ship it?
No.
We don't ship it, okay? We just see them as friends. So the whole romance thing that happened in Age of Ultron, we ignore it.
Yeah.
But just on a friendship level, it's nice to see how he did try to bring her back, and he even thought of, like, I'm pretty sure whatever you're thinking to do with the snap, he thought of the dusted characters and also Black Widow herself, trying to bring her back. But he even brings it up again in the end. I tried to bring her back and I couldn't, and Cap's like, I know. So I mean, even though the Hulk didn't have like a memorable action sequence scene in this movie, like Hulk versus Thanos or Hulk versus, one of the henchmen of Thanos' army or anything like that, he did do some brave acts, like snapping his fingers with the gauntlet, stuff like that. I thought he had in terms of that was nice to see.
Yeah. So
it wasn't all bad, as some people are saying. But the only thing I will say about the Hulk with his face, since it looks more like Mark Ruffalo, the whole time I kept looking at him like, it's Shrek, but with Mark Ruffalo's face. And I was like, because now he's a gentle giant. He's not an aggressive monster anymore. He's just a gentle giant. So I'm just looking at him. It's like, you're Shrek with Mark Ruffalo's face. The only thing missing is Donkey. But yeah, that was my take on Hulk. Is there anything else regarding Hulk?
I also like that he accepted that he was the strongest Avenger, and he's like, no, you guys can't snap. You're not gonna survive it. I'll do it. Yeah. But that's it.
I have a question though regarding the whole strongest Avenger thing, because there's people are debating whether it's Hulk, Thor, or Captain Marvel. We'll also go into Thor, since Thor is on our next topic. But do you think whoever was to wield the gauntlet, Hulk, well, we saw what happened to Hulk. He got fried, but since he's a bigger guy, it didn't kill him, right? Mm-hmm. If Thor or Captain Marvel were to wield it, do you think it would have affected their bodies too?
No, because they're also like really strong and they can handle taking on like that much power. Mm-hmm. So I think they could also like wield the gauntlet.
Yeah. I will say this. Well, we're going to get into this of Iron Man. That if Captain Marvel had the gauntlet and saved the day, I know a lot of fans were afraid of her saving the day, but we would have had our original Avengers. Yeah. So we can't win. Okay, anyway. So that was our take on Hulk. Now Thor. Depressed Thor. Fat Thor. He was the more, I think out of all of them, aside from Ant-Man and Thor were the more comedic relief in this movie. Yeah. Thor had a lot of, because he's supposed to be depressed and now he's overweight, he's drunk, he let himself go. The sexiest man alive let himself go. And now, yeah.
I really wasn't expecting that, because in Infinity War, like, Thor was MVP. Like, he was probably, like, the best character in Infinity War. Yes. He did the most to stop Thanos.
Thor had the best entrance in Wakanda. He was like, boom, with his Stormbreaker and choo choo choo.
Bring me Thanos.
Bring me Thanos. Yeah, I mean, okay, regarding Infinity War, he was one of the MVPs. I think between him and Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch, those three were like at the top of the list for me. Yeah. In Infinity War. But then you see Endgame, and boy, like, whoa, the table
180.
The tables have turned. He went downhill. hill.
Yeah, and that's what depression looks like for some people.
I will say, because particularly regarding the 6 main Avengers of what we're going to be analyzing, we have noticed a lot of criticisms of how each of their stories went out or how it ended. So I do want to address to as many as possible. So we already addressed the criticism of Professor Hulk, how some people thought he didn't have a lot of action, or that he probably just looked weird. And now with Thor, one of the criticisms was that he was one of the MVPs in Infinity War, and then they felt that in Endgame he was nerfed, like just depressed Thor, so to say.
Yeah.
Like he didn't like. Some people were just saying, like, why would you do that to Thor? He's like the god of thunder, just making comedic relief. I mean, maybe I didn't have a problem with the comedy. I actually liked the way they handled Thor in this. Yeah, he did let himself go. According to Rocket, he looked like melted ice cream. But but I just like how you can see, because it kind of goes to show his flaws, because the Russo brothers are all about showing character flaws. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes to show like how in one moment in your life you could be at the top of your game, and that's how Thor was in Infinity War. He was the MVP. He had like an adrenaline rush to get revenge on Thanos because he killed his friends and family. He had nothing else to live for, and he thought if he does this right this one last time, he could win. So it's like Thor was at the top of his game. He had his focus on Thanos. But since Thor lost and he blames himself for messing everything up, for not going for the head. He let himself go. And that kind of goes to show real life, because there's some people, I talked about this before, there's some people who are like famous and they're celebrities or athletes and singers. They're at the top of their game, at the peak of their career. And if something tragic happens in their life, they could fall hard. Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes hard for them to even get back into the game. Like they try so many, use so many tries, so many chances to continue on with their career or their life and get back to how things were before, and they can't. Yeah. So and I guess it kind of goes to show with Thor that even the god of thunder himself couldn't do it. That he even had a hard time. Yeah. So kind of made him more human.
I do feel like, it was interesting to see, and I know Chris Hemsworth was on board for it, and he suggested it because he said he wanted to do something different with his character. Right. But I feel like they did spend a little too much time on depressed Thor. I kind of wanted to see him, be that serious Thor we got in Infinity War. I wanted him to be that, but I felt like he didn't bounce back to that until the end battle. Pretty much.
When it was necessary.
And this time he did go for the head.
At the very beginning, he's like, I went for the head, even though he was late. But,
and it didn't solve anything.
It didn't solve anything, that's true. But at least he tried. Well, he tried. But then I feel like in the end battle, when he did get serious, he's like, okay, I gotta do things right this time. Some people still argued that he was nerfed in the final battle. Maybe, however you see it, I guess that's your opinion. I wasn't as bothered by it, but it could be that I felt like when Thor was going one-on-one with Thanos, for some reason I felt fear in him, in Thor. Like, he's like, oh no, this is happening again. If I lose again, then it's going to be all my fault. Because he even tells Cap and Iron Man when they see Thanos just sitting there waiting, he's like, let's kill him properly this time, right? For some reason, I just wonder if that all that weight and that pressure of guilt is going through his head, and he's like, I can't fail again, but since he's so worried and nervous, it's like he's losing in a sense. Like when Thanos is has him like this, he's just so caught up with anxiety and worriness that he's he's trying to get back to the top of his game, but because of what he's been through, it's hard for him to get back. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. Yeah. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but
yeah, it's it was kind of his fault. I know people blame Star-Lord for what happened in Infinity War.
If it wasn't for Star-Lord, we wouldn't get Endgame.
But, like, Thor, the Russo brothers explained, like, he had the opportunity to end Thanos right there, but because he wanted, he wanted Thanos to see what was going on, that's why he didn't take that chance. He didn't take that opportunity the first time. And that guilt,
it still carries on. It's still with him. It's not something that could just go away and that's it. No, I mean, for anybody, even in the real world, when you go through hardship, a loss, guilt, it's not like it magically disappears. No, some people even have to go through therapy to find a way to, like, calm themselves down and handle it. And then for Thor, he was handling it obviously with drinking and whatnot. Not the best idea, but there's people, like, I know people personally who go through hardships, and they basically, what Thor was doing, I've seen people do that in the real world with drinking and whatnot. So to me, Thor's arc, it was an interesting one. Maybe too comedic for some, but I understand why he went through it. If that makes any sense. Like, he was this close to winning an Infinity War, and he didn't. So he just carries that guilt with him. And I think it's, even in the final battle, it probably still carried on with him, and that's why he was more nervous, más nervioso, in trying to find a way to defeat Thanos. I think it's just that fear inside him. It's still there. That's why at the end of Endgame, he kind of left New Asgard to Valkyrie.
Because he doesn't feel capable anymore.
He doesn't feel capable anymore. It's like he needs a break. He just needs something to, like to breathe and just relax, kind of thing. Like, I just need to find my path and just figure out who I am with all this stuff going on. Yeah. That's just what I've noticed of the Thor character. And by the way, what did you think of New Asgard?
I like that they chose Norway. Yeah, but that's pretty cool. Valkyrie's gonna be queen.
I was wishing for them to explore on the whole Thor and Valkyrie relationship, but again, like we mentioned before, since there's so much they have to fit in the movie, and they have to worry about this first, and everything else
comes later.
So, do you think we'll see Valkyrie in the future and as Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes, we're definitely gonna see Valkyrie again. And it really caught me by surprise that they renewed Chris Hemsworth's contract. And because I thought they were gonna be done with all these characters, but I guess they're not done with Thor or Hulk.
Yeah, speaking of Hulk, we forgot to mention this. Do you think Hulk is like that? Like, because in the end of the movie for Hulk, he's still there on Earth. It's like, yeah, his arm is damaged, but what else is there for him to do? I feel like there's still more stories to tell about Hulk and about Thor, and of the obviously the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They're gonna be in production probably next year now that James Gunn is back. And the end of the movie is hinting that Thor will be with them. Yeah. So it makes me wonder, like, will Hulk come into play? They're going to do another Thor Ragnarok meets Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing?
It seems like they're setting everything up for it to go that way. Or maybe, even for Thor 4.
Thor 4, yeah. Well, it makes me wonder, I don't know if they will do a Thor 4, since the main 3 Avengers, like Cap, Iron Man, Thor, they already had their trilogies, but they could use Thor kind of like what they did with Iron Man, like they put Iron Man in Civil War, and then they could put Thor in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I think it works perfectly. If you would have told me before Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming out, I've been like, oh, but James Gunn is not going to do it. But now James Gunn is going to do it. It's like, oh, okay. But now Thor's going to be in it. That's even more awesome. So I can't wait to see it. I mean, the two Chris's fighting for leadership. That's going to be awesome. So, and then if add Valkyrie in there, more awesome. So I cannot wait for that. And yeah, who knows if Hulk will make a cameo, because his story doesn't, it seems like is finished, but not finished.
It's not finished.
Like, there's still more to discuss about Hulk.
There has to be a reason why they decided to specifically keep Thor and Hulk in there. And does that wrap everything up for Thor?
I think that wraps everything up for Thor. Now next is Hawkeye and Black Widow, the one that everyone's talking about regarding their sacrificial death scene fight on Vormir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this one, okay, regarding Hawkeye, we knew like at the very beginning his family was affected by the snap.
Yeah.
And that when he becomes Ronin, he's going crazy over the loss of his family and he's upset. So, and then Black Widow, she sees him and she feels, she feels upset, or she feels bad that he lost his family. And you know what? Someone brought up something interesting. Since Black Widow used to be this dangerous spy, and then Hawkeye saved her by bringing her into S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like she's seeing herself in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Killing people. So I thought that was a cool, like a cool nod, I guess you could say.
It's like Hawkeye became like what Natasha was, which was an assassin.
An assassin.
And who had no guidance on like what to do. And it's like, it's interesting that like Hawkeye became that when he lost his family, because he lost his everything, so he lost his way. And to like see Natasha like go back and recruit him, it kind of reminded me of like the original Avengers movie when she's recruiting Bruce Banner.
Oh yeah.
So I think it was really important that they had those two characters together, because like even Natasha says like, who am I to judge? Because she knows that Clint hasn't judged her for her past, so she's not gonna judge Clint for what he's done now, for what he's become.
Yeah.
And she's gonna like try and save him like from this darkness.
Right. So it's there's a lot of Clint-Tasha moments in this movie. So despite the fact that Hawkeye is a married man, I will say this: when they were on Vormir and they touch heads, I thought they were gonna kiss.
Me too. I thought they were gonna kiss.
I thought they were gonna kiss. And then, if you notice in the movie, Black Widow has the arrow necklace that she wore in the Winter Soldier movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, there's a lot of Clint-Tasha moments.
A lot of Clint-Tasha.
So say what you guys want to say about whatever ship there may be out there, or if you guys are still, again, we don't ship Bruce Nat or Brutasha, whatever it's called, between the Hulk and Black Widow, but there's a lot of Clint-Tasha moments in this movie. And it kind of gets us to their fight with each other on Vormir. Who's going to sacrifice themselves?
Oh, before that. I'm sorry. Like Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner had such good chemistry that, we legit thought they were going to kiss when they touch heads.
Yes!
And in movies, when they do that, you only see two types of people do the head-touching things in movies, which is, like, brothers who, like, do that, or couples. So I'm like Russo brothers, what are you trying to do here? Are they brothers or are they a couple?
He's a married man. I don't know. If they did kiss, I would have been like, ooh, Hawkeye, does your wife know what you're doing?
And also, when you exchange something for the Soul Stone, in Infinity War, they set it up so that you have to give up what you love the most. Mm. So, like, what does that mean? Like, does Clint love Natasha the most? What does that mean?
I know. There's just a lot of Clint-Tasha moments. And, speaking of that, some people were saying, well, why didn't Nebula had to know, so why didn't they send, like, two Avengers that were not close friends? Like, say they sent Ant-Man and War Machine to Vormir. Would it have worked? And I don't think so, because they just met. They're not on that level. And then some people were saying maybe Nebula knew that in order to get the stone, it has to be two people that are really close to each other and known each other their whole lives and whatnot. So maybe she did, who knows? But it kind of makes you wonder. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess she probably should have mentioned that.
Yeah, she probably should have mentioned that.
But she didn't, because she probably knew they wouldn't you know, they wouldn't trade lives, like Cap says.
Oh, yeah, we don't trade lives.
You know, maybe she just knew that they had a special, like, friendship, and that's why she sent them to Vormir.
That's true. Which is kind of sneaky on Nebula's part.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic. But again, there is now this whole controversy regarding how Black Widow's death was handled. I will say this, when I first saw the movie, okay, before I even saw the movie, I told my friend here, Robo and Trash, if Black Widow were to die, I probably wouldn't care.
I told you the same thing.
We both said the same thing. Like, oh, she dies, like, okay, like, she died. But for some reason, in my head, I thought she was gonna die, like, in the final battle scene. I didn't think she was gonna die like this. And when the way she died really hit me. I was like, oh, snap. Like, because when they went to Vormir, I was like, oh, okay, they're going to Vormir to get the Soul Stone. But as soon as the Red Skull appears, I was like, wait. They have to sacrifice one another. Like, no. And then that's where it really hit me. And then truth be told, I didn't want Black Widow to go, because now I was like, oh no. Because there were theories also going around, like, regarding who might die. Yeah, there was theories of Cap and Tony, but even Black Widow was on the list of one of the candidates likely to die. So I was thinking, oh, maybe this is true. Maybe she is going to die. And she does. She sacrifices her life so that Hawkeye can get the Soul Stone. Some people are saying, why did the only female Avenger have to die? And that it should have been Hawkeye. So there is a lot of mixed emotions about this. I feel like just talking about it is like walking on eggshells. You don't want to say anything wrong to offend anybody, and we're not, but I see even right now, it's like I'm walking on eggshells. Just from what I've seen, in Black Widow's point of view, she knew she has a dark past, she has red on her ledger. She knew that Hawkeye had more to live for, because he had a family and everything, and she's like, I never got to have that, but you do, and I want you to enjoy that with your family. So, and she even tells him, because he tells her, tell my family I love them, and she's like, no, you tell them yourself. So it was just an intense moment. Right. And then people are also arguing, like, why did she get a funeral and stuff like that. And then what did one of the screenwriters say? Oh, well, the Russo brothers said that, you know, the Avengers are practically her family, and they kind of, you know, address it in the moment where they're all remembering Natasha. Right. How they were her family. So it's kind of like that little scene, even though it wasn't like a formal funeral, they were sort of still like remembering her. Right. And I think that's also why Natasha decided, you know, to sacrifice herself, because the Avengers were her family. S.H.I.E.L.D. And like Nick Fury were her family. So it's like she was saying, you know, I'm going to sacrifice my life for my family. And, you know, you don't see that in a lot of movies where like the female character does, you know, decide to sacrifice themselves. Yeah, it's very rare. It's very rare. Very rare. And so that was interesting. And I also really like how Natasha like was portrayed in this movie, because I think in previous movies I like didn't have an emotional connection for her. Yeah, neither did I. But the way the Russo brothers wrote her in this movie, like the scenes she had in the very beginning where she was like crying, and like you could see how much losing, you know, a lot of people affected her, and to like see her sacrifice herself like that really made me have respect like for her character. Right, I totally agree. That's why at first I was like, oh, she dies, like okay, but this movie really made me feel something for her, and if it wasn't for her, the Avengers would not have gotten all the stones. So I like what Hulk says, we gotta make this worth it for her, because if not, then all of this would have been for nothing. So, and they do make it worth it. Now there's some people asking, can they get her back? like when Cap goes back in time, they return the stones. If he returns the Soul Stone, can he get her back? And the Russos answered that it's irreversible. It's like once you, even if you were to return it, you basically use the stone itself. You used it for the purpose you needed it for. So you can't, like, once the person's gone, they're gone. It's like you could. It's like when, like, those stores, you purchase something and you try to return it back and they're like, no refunds. This is like no refunds. You could return the stone if you want. You're still not getting the person back, which kind of sucks.
Yeah,
it really does suck. But I will miss Scarlett Johansson's portrayal of Black Widow. I think she was pretty cool. She paved the way for more female Avengers. And then we are getting the prequel Black Widow movie next year, so we'll get to see more of her backstory. But what kind of bums me out is that no more Black Widow. That means we won't get to see more Bucky Nat.
Yeah, we really wanted to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to see the whole history of the Winter Soldier and Black Widow since the Winter Soldier movie, and the Russos not give me that. But whatever, they do things that are like unpredictable, I guess, and this was unpredictable. I don't know. I think we'll get into like all the characters that are like finished with this movie and whatnot, but I feel like Black Widow's death was the most tragic.
Yeah,
because she, like you said, she said she came from nothing. She had nothing until she found the shield and the Avengers. And then the fact that she risked her life, to get the stone and everything, like, yeah, you could say Iron Man did the same thing. He snapped his fingers and whatnot. But at least Iron Man got to live with Pepper and his daughter. And then Cap got to live with Peggy and all that stuff. So at least they kind of got to enjoy something in their life. Versus Black Widow had a hard time finding it, I guess you could say. So, yeah, I think hers was the most shocking and the most tragic.
And I think it's also interesting that they decided to have her get sacrificed because, she's the character who, as she says herself, has most red on her ledger. Mm-hmm. So the fact that she did something so selfless, like, shows you, like, how much she really wanted to do the right thing.
Right.
Like, how much she really wanted to, do something that was, like, right with her life.
Right. So, do you have anything else?
Oh, yeah. And I also, like, wanted to talk a little bit about, like, Hawkeye's daughter.
Okay.
I think it was, like, pretty cool to, like, see, like, him, like, coaching her on, like, how to, like, work a bow and arrow.
Maybe the future.
And,
Kate Bishop, the future Hawkeye. But her name's not Kate, but you get the idea.
Yeah, and I think, like, they're probably setting it up for, like, a Young Avengers kind of thing.
And speaking of Young Avengers, I think they're doing the same for Cassie, Ant-Man's daughter. I think there's, like, so many Young Avengers in this movie. I mean, you got Hawkeye and his daughter, Iron Man and his daughter, Ant-Man and his daughter. Like, so many Young Avengers. Okay. But yeah, I do think they are setting something up for Phase 4 and beyond. Plus, Hawkeye is getting his own show on the Disney Plus streaming service, and then Black Widow's getting her prequel movie. So it's like finally the two Avengers that got nothing are getting something. They're getting something.
And it seems like they are going to retire Hawkeye because the little plot summary for his show is that he's teaching, like,
the new
generation, and he's passing down his torch to them. So it seems like he's finally going to retire.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you ready to move on to the next big two?
I guess we're ready as we'll ever be.
Iron Man and Captain America. Mm-hmm. So we'll start with Iron Man first. So he's the one who got the death. Yeah. So we were debating, was it going to be Iron Man or Cap? It ended up being Iron Man. So I think his death made it more difficult because he had family.
Yeah.
I did not expect that because I thought that if he did die, there was no family. Like, he didn't have a daughter yet or anything, but if he didn't die, then he would have retired and had the family. No, the Russo brothers gave you both. He retired and had a family, and then he died. So I was like, oh no. And it was so foreshadowed. Mm-hmm. I felt like with both Iron Man and Captain America, their fates at the end of this movie was completely foreshadowed. There was so much foreshadowing in this movie. I'm just like, wow, you guys are really foreshadowing. Even when he was with Nebula on the spaceship, and he's just lying down, and you see Nebula kind of help him pick him up, putting him in the chair. Tony's just like lifeless. It's like, okay, this is foreshadowing his death. And then when he's talking to Cap, I want to bring back the dusted, but I also want to keep what I have. But I want to do it without dying. You know, I want to try and do it without dying. Foreshadowing, foreshadows. And then there's just so many foreshadowing moments. And then when he sees his dad, Howard Stark, in the 70s, and I think his dad says, you gotta do it for the greater good. It's like, oh, more foreshadowing. There's so much foreshadowing in this movie. But it kind of makes me feel sad. Oh, but I will say this. One of the theories a lot of people were theorizing was that he would wield a gauntlet. And he did because
he does in the comics.
He does in the comics. And plus, there was this whole thing in that if you guys ever seen the first Iron Man movie, his left arm is always injured. Or he's always, like, caressing it and smoothing it. And
he, like, does, like, this.
And it turns out when he uses the gauntlet, that side of his arm gets it's damaged, basically. But it's to the point where it affects his whole body. So yeah, his death, I'm gonna miss Robert Downey Jr. Because if it wasn't for him, this would have never happened. So I think, oh man, it was just like hard because I'm like, you have a daughter and now the daughter has no father. Like, why?
He had the most to like lose and the most to live for.
Yeah.
And we really thought that like Captain America was the one that was gonna like sacrifice himself because compared to Tony, like he didn't have a family.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You know, he just had Bucky, who he really like wanted to bring back. So it was like really like surprising that they decided to have Iron Man sacrifice himself.
Right. But you know what's interesting, and we're gonna also talk about this with Captain America. The screenwriters had already had it planned. They're like, we had it planned since the beginning that Iron Man was the one who's gonna die, and Cap is the one who's gonna, so to say, retire. So it was already planned. You couldn't even change their minds if you wanted to switch it for the characters. They had it planned. And when you really look at it, for both Iron Man and Cap, their whole, like, their ending for Endgame was foreshadowed since the beginning of their first movies. Because if you notice, since the first Iron Man movie, Tony always escapes death.
Yeah.
He always escapes death. He got captured in the first Iron Man movie, and they take out, like, they do weird things with his heart, and he could have died, but he survived thanks to Dr. Jensen, I believe is his name. And then Dr. Jensen tells him, don't waste your life, Tony. And for Tony's like, okay. Then in Iron Man 2, he's getting sick. He's getting, like, these things on his neck due to the arc reactor. It's causing him to die, but they find a cure. And then in the Avengers, the first Avengers, he takes the missile to the sky, does the sacrifice, and they think he's dead, but he survives. Again, he escapes death. Iron Man 3, he's going through PTSD and whatnot, but he's fine. He survives another day. And then Age of Ultron, he like helps out Sokovia something with the rock. I don't remember that movie that well because it wasn't my favorite, but he also does something heroic. And then in Civil War, when Captain America puts the shield through Tony's little arc reactor and the light goes out.
And you think he's gonna die, but he doesn't die.
He doesn't die. It's hinted. And then Spider-Man: Homecoming, nothing really happens. He was more like a background character. He wasn't really in the forefront of that movie. But in Infinity War, he got stabbed by Thanos. He escaped death there too. And then in Endgame at the beginning on the spaceship, he thought he was gonna die in the spaceship. He escaped death until finally death got him at the final battle.
It's like he almost died in every single movie he's in.
He's almost,
except he doesn't. And then when he does, it's like
dang. It's like he's always at death's door in every movie he's in, but he manages to escape. But in this movie, death finally got him.
Yeah.
And it's when he has everything, and man.
I think it's pretty poetic that Tony pretty much started out as like a selfish character, and he ended up doing like the most selfless things. And he also had like the most to lose, and the fact that he still like decided to go through with it, like that was like pretty pretty poetic.
I agree. Also, regarding, oh, and I do want to say this also. I think also the whole fatherhood aspect was also foreshadowed for Tony. Because in Iron Man 3, you see that kid, what's his name? Harley?
Yeah, Harley.
Harley. Okay, so he's in Iron Man 3. He becomes a mentor for that kid. And also, that kid is in the funeral scenes because people are always wondering, who's that kid at the end? It's him.
You fake fans.
And then he becomes a father figure and mentor for Spider-Man. And then what you come to know, Tony actually becomes a father for his daughter Morgan. So he has like 3 kids, so to say. 2 that are like his adopted, like he mentors these kids, Harley and Spider-Man, and then you have his actual daughter Morgan. So fatherhood was also foreshadowed. And I guess also in the sense that Tony had his dealings with his father, Howard Stark, he had he didn't get along with his father that well. And then even the actor Robert Downey Jr. himself also mentioned before in his past he had a hard time with his own father. So it's like fatherhood was even foreshadowed since past Marvel movies as well. So I just feel like when you really take a look back since the beginning of Iron Man's journey, everything was foreshadowed for this movie. I'm just like, because I thought Iron Man was going to retire at the end of this movie and not die. I thought he was going to wield the gauntlet, but I thought he would be able to survive. Just get burned a little bit, but it wouldn't affect him completely. But when you really look at it from the beginning, no, his death was foreshadowed. Being a father was foreshadowed. And yeah.
I think it's interesting that the Russo brothers stuck to the rules they wrote for the Infinity Gauntlet. So like they made that rule that if you use the Infinity Gauntlet, it's gonna fry your arm, and if you're not as strong as Thanos, then it's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
So the fact that they stuck to the rules and like they didn't have this character cheat death, you don't see that in a lot of movies.
That is true.
Yeah.
And also, what do you think of do you have anything to comment on his relationship with Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, their reunion in Endgame?
Yeah. Like in Infinity War, Tom Holland like made us like cry. Well, at least he made me cry. And like I thought we weren't gonna get a moment like that in this movie, but he like really like made me cry in this movie. Like when he's like saying like, "Mr. Stark, please don't go." It's like, oh my god, so many emotions like just came bubbling up. And like there was a guy sitting next to me. He was probably like, I want to say he was like in his late 20s, and he was crying.
Aww.
He was like
for
sobbing.
Infinity War or Endgame?
For Endgame.
Oh,
he was sobbing that like when Tony's like passing away, and he was like sobbing during that scene. So like you could see like how emotional that moment was, and like how hard it hit.
It hit a lot of fans.
It hit a lot
because
of
fans. This is Tony Stark we're talking about. Robert Downey Jr. does an amazing job as Tony. So when you realize that this is it, it's like, oh no.
And like Robert Downey Jr. has done so much for the MCU. Like he was responsible for like convincing Gwyneth Paltrow to
be Pepper.
He
also convinced Chris Evans to be Captain America.
Yeah, so he's done so much for the MCU. He's been like such a big part of the MCU, and to like see him get like this hero's send off, like that was I think that was perfect for his character.
Now here's the thing. I don't know if it's just me being a fan, but I have a hard time accepting that Robert Downey Jr. is done. Because the MCU saved his career.
Yeah.
If you guys know the history of Robert Downey Jr., he had a troubled past with his father. He's beyond drugs and alcohol, in and out of rehab, and the MCU helped get his career back. So I'm pretty sure. So since the fact that Robert Downey Jr. has done so many movies for the MCU shows how much fun and how much he appreciates what they do. I just have a hard time believing that Robert Downey Jr. is done.
I have a hard time believing that too.
Because even the Russos, they mentioned that when RDJ discovered that his character was going to die, he was kind of shocked.
He had mixed emotions.
He had mixed emotions, but then obviously he accepted it and he's like, okay, well, if this is the story, this is the story. But I've heard from other people doing theories on YouTube saying that they could bring Tony back, but he would be like Jarvis, like an AI form. So it's not physical Tony, but it's like his consciousness is in one of the Iron Man suits.
Yeah.
And he could be like a mentor for his daughter.
Yeah.
Training her to be the new Iron Woman. Ironheart. Maybe she'll be Ironheart. Because I know Ironheart is from the comic.
Riri?
Yeah, Riri, but maybe they're going to do a different take on it with his daughter. I don't know. But I just have a hard time accepting that Robert Downey Jr. is done. I just don't believe it. Because, like, in comparison to Chris Evans was more vocal. Like, oh, yeah, you know, I'm planning to be done soon with Marvel. I might do other things. If I plan to come back, I'll come back, but we'll see. Robert Downey Jr. never said that, like, on social media or anything. He's like, I'll keep playing Iron Man as long as they want me to keep playing Iron Man. And I'll do it, if, you know, no matter what. Like, I just have a hard time believing that this is the last we're going to see it. And then, last time we're going to see it. And then plus, now there's alternate universes. Who's to say that Tony is not alive in those universes? Like, you know how, we'll get into, like, time travel in a little bit, but, like, when Loki took the Tesseract, who's to say that Tony in that timeline is alive?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just knowing Robert Downey Jr., he loves this character. He loves working with Marvel. You can't tell me that he won't come back in some shape or form as Tony.
I think probably like as an AI form.
An AI.
That it's looking pretty likely for that.
Yeah.
And
they
also have that one scene at the end where he's like talking to everybody in a video form.
Yeah.
So who's to say he didn't record like a whole bunch
more. And then plus it's like he knew in case he was gonna die. It was like he knew in case something happened. I don't know. I just feel like Tony, being the genius that he is, he knew that he had to do something in case he were to die. So he put his consciousness and made all these other videos and these Iron Man suits. That's just me. I just don't. I know some people are saying like, oh, but that would cheapen his death. But then someone also commented, this is the MCU where fake deaths happen. And it's like, yeah, that is true. So it's like, do you want to cheapen his death and respect it and honor it, or do you want him to come back but in a different form? So that's like, that question is up in the air.
It's an open door.
It's an open door, but I don't see Robert Downey Jr. done. Maybe Tony Stark is done, physical Tony Stark, but Robert Downey Jr., I just don't think he's done. I just see him wanting to come back.
Yeah.
That's just me. And now we go on to Captain America.
Oh, before we
yeah.
go on Captain America, I think it was interesting that like Tony started off the MCU by saying, I am Iron Man, and then his last words were, I am Iron Man.
Yes, he started it and he ended it. Which I thought, like, again, I thought he wasn't going to die because he had more to live for. But like you said, he started it, and he ended it. Yeah.
And I do wish he would have gotten, like, a little bit more to say before he passed away. I would have liked his, like, last words to be, like, for each of the people he cared for. Like, he could have said something to Rhodey. He could have said something to Pepper.
But he was dying.
Said something to Peter. But he was dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, like, those are just going to be his last words.
I am Iron Man. A memorable line. And I love you 3000.
I love you 3000.
I love you 3000. Hashtag I love you 3000, Tony. Okay. So now we go into our last character, Captain America. So I will say this. Ant-Man and Thor had the comedic moments. Iron Man had the emotional moments, which some people are saying he should win an Oscar for his emotional performance, because he did pull off an emotional performance. We'll see how it goes, but Robert Downey Jr. did a very good job. And since Academy Awards tend to focus on the whole emotional aspect, we'll see. I think Captain America had the most amazing action scenes in this movie.
Yeah,
he had the best action scenes. I was like, oh my gosh, straight off the top of my head. I feel like he was the MVP in this movie.
I think Tony and Cap were both the MVPs. Yeah.
For me, just to see him, I mean, my favorite scenes with Cap were wielding Mjolnir. I mean, because at first when the hammer was moving, I thought it was Thor who was moving the hammer.
No, like, I knew it was him.
I knew it was here's him. The thing, because I thought, like, okay, maybe Thor has, like, a hand free or something. He's trying to mind control Mjolnir to hit Thanos so that he could surprise attack him. But then when the hammer went the other way, I was like, wait, what's going on? And it went to Cap, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes!
I think like our group like went crazy at that moment. We were like, ah!
Everyone was screaming. We were like, oh my gosh! And then Captain America just grabs that hammer and swings it at Thanos and uses the lightning. That was cool, and it's a reference also to Age of Ultron. Because if you remember, he moves it slightly, and some people were saying, well, why is it that Cap can move Mjolnir now and not before? There's these theories that it could have to do with Civil War, where, and I do agree with this theory, maybe because since he held a secret from Tony for so long about his parents, but now that he let the secret like out and the guilt of his conscience was now like, calmed or free, so to say, he was not able to wield Mjolnir. It's like Mjolnir in Age of Ultron was saying, you're almost worthy, but not quite yet, because you're hiding the secret from Tony, but now that you told the truth, now you can wield Mjolnir. So, and
that's an interesting theory.
Yeah. So I like that theory. And also saying Avengers Assemble when... That's what I told you, remember, that was supposed to be the money shot. Because they wouldn't show it in the trailers. But when you finally see the portals open and all the Avengers come and he grabs Mjolnir and says, Avengers Assemble, I was just like, oh my gosh.
I think those are the top 3 things that we wanted to see. We were like, we want to see the money shot with all the Avengers. We want to see Cap have Thor's hammer. And we want to see Cap say Avengers Assemble.
Yes, that was... oh my gosh, I was just mind blown. I was like, oh, I feel like with the Russo... Because Chris Evans worked with the Russo brothers mostly in his entire MCU career. Because he did Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame with them. I feel like in the early Cap movies, and even the first Avengers movies, like Captain America the First Avenger, it's a good movie, but when you compare it to Winter Soldier and Civil War with what the Russos have done, it doesn't even come close. Because I feel like the Russo brothers made Captain America a badass. Like
you can tell they really know his character.
They know his character. They made him cool because even in the first Avengers movie, I feel like Joss Whedon did not know what to do with Captain America. It was more like Iron Man gets is more front and center and gets the attention on the show. And then, Thor has some cool moments because he has the lightning and the Hulk because he's big and strong. But Captain America, you see him for a brief second get the leadership role, but that was it. I don't know, I just felt like Joss Whedon didn't know what to do much with him. But then when the Russos come in and they do the Winter Soldier, they make him so cool with his fight scenes, and then you get Civil War and Infinity War, and then Endgame takes it to a whole nother level with the hammer. Like, for example, when Thor uses Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, it's cool, but when you see Cap use Mjolnir and the shield, it oh my gosh,
it's what we wanted to see.
It's amazing.
What the fans wanted to
it's
see.
so amazing. I loved every moment of it. I wish it was longer. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But I think Cap had like some of the best action scenes in this movie.
He had the best moments.
And then even when he fought himself.
Yeah, that was really cool too.
It's like, I can do this all day. Yeah, I know.
He it was also interesting because you can tell that Cap's starting to get tired even because he's like, oh, I don't want to fight all these people in an elevator, or oh, I don't want to fight myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep fighting myself. You can tell he's like starting to get tired. So he like starts to use his wit, and he's like he tries to outsmart the situation.
Right.
Which is like where you get like that Hail Hydra.
Oh yeah, Hail Hydra.
That was really cool.
A reference from a controversial comic that should have never happened, but surprisingly worked in this movie.
Yeah, it worked for this movie.
That was cool. I will say this regarding with Iron Man, we learned that he learned to be selfless. And in the first Avengers movie, when Cap and Iron Man were arguing, Steve tells Tony, like, you're not the guy willing to make the sacrifice play. Would you ever lay down and let the other guy crawl over you? and Tony does prove Cap wrong that he does sacrifice himself, not only in the first Avengers movie, but even in Endgame. And then Iron Man makes an interesting quote to Captain America as well. He's like, basically saying like everything special about you came out of a bottle. You're just a laboratory experiment. Basically saying like you're nothing and you're just that scrawny kid from Brooklyn. Why are you even special to begin with? But what I liked about this that they both proved each other wrong. Yes, Iron Man became selfless and sacrificed his life, but Captain America became worthy to the point where he could wield the hammer of a god of thunder, so to say. He became worthy to wield that hammer, go up against this huge titan, Thanos, and to the point where he's able to lead the entire Avengers. Mm-hmm. Yes, this is a scrawny kid from Brooklyn, and yeah, he has no like amazing superpowers, but the fact that the Avengers all put their trust in him and they look up to him to lead the team kind of shows a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, he is a laboratory experiment, but he became much more beyond that, so
it's
to
like
say.
His heart and his, like, I'm going to say, like, his pureness mm-hmm. of heart was enough to make him worthy.
Yeah, it shows his true heart, his integrity. And then even when you remember when Thor and Iron Man are knocked down by Thanos, and even when Captain America gets the hammer, but he's knocked down again by Thanos, Captain America tries to get up with that broken shield, and I thought Cap was gonna die in that moment. And then my friends were saying, he's gonna die in theories, he's gonna die. Like, no, it's too early, not yet. But that's also a reference from the comics, because in the comics, Captain America tells Thanos, even if one man is standing against you, you're not going to claim victory. Something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And even though Captain America doesn't say it, you could visually see it. Because Captain America is this one guy standing in front of this massive, giant army of Thanos. And Captain America is just like, you just see blood and he's dirty all here. And he's just tired. His shield is broken. He's trying to strap it tighter, and you're thinking, what is he gonna do? Like, Cap, what are you doing? You can't face all of them by yourself. But he's willing to stand there and just make a stand. That Thanos is like, kind of reminds me of Civil War when Sharon Carter says, plant yourself like a tree and say, no, you move, kind of thing. So it kind of reminded me of that, like you go, Cap, you plant yourself like a tree and tell Thanos, no, you move, you move. So just to see that visually, like this one man is still, he's willing to go fight Thanos even though he's alone. He was willing to get up and try. Yeah. So that, to me, yeah, he is a laboratory experiment, came out of a bottle, but it shows you his worth, so to say. Iron Man learned to be selfless, and Captain America became worthy. Yeah. And I also like what someone said, kind of reminds me back in Infinity War, when the girls were fighting Proxima Midnight and Black Widow said she's not alone. Mm-hmm. It kind of also shows with Captain America, he's not alone. Yeah. Because all the Avengers came behind him with the portals, and then it's like Captain America looks at that and was like, yeah, look what I got. I got my friends by my side. Now, Captain America passes on the mantle. Yeah. To Falcon. Oh, so it seems like the Falcon.
Before we talk about that, I just want to say, like, the acting from Chris Evans in that scene where he, like, straps back on the shield, like, that his acting was, like, so good in that scene. Oh, yeah. Like, he, like, clenches his teeth, and you can, like, kind of see just how determined his character is, that he's not going to give up, that he's going to stand up to Thanos no matter what.
Remember, this is the guy who played the Human Torch. And the fact that he was able to do this shows how far Chris Evans has come. Mm-hmm. Both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. Because, yeah, like, they both had, like, you know, Chris Evans was just starting out in his acting career. Not many memorable movies except The Fantastic Four, and then Robert Downey Jr. was in and out of rehab, and the fact that they're able to play these characters for fans to love shows you how amazing they are.
They're really good actors.
Really good actors. So yeah, I love he's like, I'm gonna do this.
I can do this all day.
I can do this all day. You know, he doesn't say it, but he's like,
you can tell he's thinking it.
So yeah, so going with Cap's ending, passing the mantle and his dance.
Okay, I was probably one of the few people who I know you really wanted him to have the sacrificial death. Because you were like, that's perfect for his character.
Yes.
I don't see him resting or retiring at any point.
But see, this is the thing. Wait, before you go on with that. In terms of him retiring, I thought it would be like, oh, he retires, but he still looks young.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought.
Me too.
Yeah,
I thought that too.
So I was like, why would he retire and rest if he's still like young? And I just don't see him like sitting, backing out of the fight if he's still capable of fighting. But it twisted on me when I saw him aged. Then I was like, oh, that makes total sense now.
Yeah, and I think I like told you, like, I really want to see Cap retire, but I thought he was going to retire, you know, like in the present day as a young person. And I was like, you know, he deserves that because his whole life he's done nothing for himself. He's been selfless.
Yeah.
He had a sacrificial death, like, or almost had a sacrificial death in the first Avenger.
And then even in the Winter Soldier too.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was willing to let the helicarriers blow up while he was still in there with the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and he was willing to die for Bucky.
And Civil War because he was willing to be a fugitive.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of went through a lot too.
So it's
for the good of others. Uh-huh.
It's like he never had the chance to have his own life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mentioned to Disney Avenger that I really wanted to see that. I really wanted to see him retire and have a happy ending for just once. Because he never had, like, a happy ending.
Right. Now, some people are arguing that it was probably selfish on his part, because that Tony should have been the one to be at peace with his family and have Cap die. And that's what I thought at first, too, because I was like, I'm a little nervous that people might be thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
But then it kind of does, again, when I look back at the first movies, his dance with Peggy was also hinted. He would always be looking at her picture. Even in Age of Ultron, he had the vision of him dancing with Peggy Carter. That Scarlet Witch gave him that vision, or his dream sequence. And then even, I wanted to mention, it kind of reminds me of actual soldiers who go on a mission off to another country. And yeah, they do what they gotta do on their mission, but there is a part of them that longs to go back home to be with their family. And that's Captain America. He's a soldier. He's doing his duty, his active role with the Avengers, completing the missions to save others. But yeah, he wants to also return home to where he belongs. So I think, and as the writers were saying, that they never planned to have Cap die, that he earned the right to go back home.
Yeah, because he's always been like the selfless character. He's never done anything for himself. And I think that the fact that, you know, that they faced Thanos and that they pretty much eliminated like the biggest threat that existed in the universe, I think that finally like clicked with him, and plus Tony's death as well. Mm-hmm. Like that finally like made him realize like, okay, I think I've eliminated the biggest threat that could ever exist in this universe. I think I've done my part, and you know, I think it's time for me to go home.
Yeah, and he even says when he's now an older Cap and he tells Sam and Bucky, he's like, I took Tony's advice. I think if he didn't take Tony's advice and he was just sitting around like still feeling lonely after Tony's death, it would have been like, how can I say it? Tony and even Black Widow told him to get a life, mm-hmm. to live your life, do something great, like enjoy life of what it is and stop worrying about, like, you know, like the
just always trying to save the day.
Yeah, like stop worrying about that. Try to live your life. And if I think Steve taking that into consideration, he's trying to, how can I say it? Trying to basically follow Tony's advice and live and keep it at heart, and Natasha's advice and put it into effect, so to say. And like he said, I took Tony's advice and it was beautiful because he lived his life with Peggy in an alternate universe. That's a whole nother story, but yeah. And now Falcon might be Cap.
Yeah, and then also like in Age of Ultron when Iron Man and Cap are having like this argument, you know, Iron Man tells him like, you know, I'm trying to create, you know, Ultron so that we can go home at the end of the day, so that we can go home. And then Cap is always like, no, like there's always gonna be threats. But I think, you know, you got to see like Cap finally go home, and now we get into him passing on the torch
to Falcon. Some people are saying it should have been Bucky, which like in the comics, but both of them do become Cap. But I think with Falcon, Falcon's been more at Steve's side than Bucky, and plus Falcon is more mentally stable than Bucky. So some people are saying, you know, would you want someone who was once a terrorist to represent the symbol of America? And I was like, yeah, that is true. Falcon is more stable. He's a good soldier as well. He doesn't have the Winter Soldier reputation. And plus now it brings in the diversity factor.
Yeah.
We get to see a black Captain America.
I also think that's why they picked like Falcon over Bucky, because we thought for a long time it was going to be Bucky to get to be Captain America, but I think it's the better choice that they picked Sam, because you know you want to see diversity in the MCU,
right?
That has had like primarily white heroes for, you know,
a long time,
for 10 years. So like now that you see like more racially diverse heroes come in the picture, I think that's
nice. It's nice to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, regarding both Tony and Cap, they both learned from each other. Tony learned to be selfless. Cap became worthy, and he took Tony's advice to live his life. Not to, yes, to always be a good man and say, you know, try to help others, but to also, you know, kind of also appreciate the little moments that you have with your friends and family, so to say.
Yeah.
So I think, so with Iron Man, it was already planned. He started it, he ended it. Cap been on this long soldier's journey, and now he has the right to go back home to his family, which is what many soldiers that go off into battle, they do their mission, but then they also long to go back home with their family. So that's basically like the Captain America journey. So those are our characters. Now we're briefly going to go over plot holes and our favorite moments very briefly. So favorite moments for me is the final battle.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, the missions were cool, but I only like the New York mission, to be honest. I felt like the other missions lagged a little bit.
I really like Vormir too.
Vormir?
Yeah.
Okay. But the final battle takes the cake.
Yeah, definitely.
When you see all of the Avengers there, how can you top that?
It's like there was very little action throughout, you know, the very first part of the movie, but then like it was all compensated for in that last battle.
Right. Yeah, so the final battle is like the king of all superhero fight battle scenes. Now, regarding plot holes, some people are complaining of the time travel, that it messes up or it confuses people. But then the Hulk even says, going back to the past doesn't change your future. So that's like a key quote that you have to take into consideration. But it does raise a lot of suspicion of like, so if I go back in time and I meet myself, does that create a new branch? And all these now questions, which is a little annoying, I guess you can say. Time travel in itself in any movie or show is annoying.
It's complicated.
It's complicated. So I don't know if you wanted to say anything regarding that.
I feel like the way the Russos did it, I mean, a lot of people, they don't really want to have to think too hard about the plot. And I feel like the way they did time travel, you do have to think about it a little bit. It's not as simple as in other movies like Back to the Future or something
Which
like
is
that.
funny, but I will admit, I do appreciate that War Machine brought up those movies like Time Travel, Back to the Future, Wrinkle in Time, Star Trek, Terminator, Hot Tub Time Machine, something in time. And that's what most people are used to when seeing those movies. Like, you go back to the past, it changes your future. But the Russo brothers said that they actually talked to actual, like, physicists and whatnot, and they said that is not true. What those movies show is BS and blah blah blah. So it's like, oh, okay, well, good to know. So they took from what those physicists say that going to the past doesn't change your future. It just creates branches, alternate realities. So like Loki, for example, our current Loki is dead, but the Loki who took the Tesseract in 2012, he's alive somewhere in that alternate universe, in that timeline. So which is why we're getting that Loki show.
Yeah.
It's that Loki who's alive. But it does bring confusion because if I have to think about it, I'm like, wait, what? Okay, yeah. So I don't think too hard about it. And I also want to bring up about Captain America because some people are saying, so did he cause like a glitch in the time? Like, no, because he's living in an alternate universe. But then I wonder, is Captain America the actual father of the kids? Because some people are saying that you never see a picture of Peggy's husband in any of the movies. Yeah, there was the Agent Carter show and she goes with Sosa, is his name. But we don't know what happens after that because they never renewed the show. And then plus, if she was married to another guy, I'd be suspicious to see Steve Rogers on her desk. A picture of Steve Rogers on her desk. That's all I'm going to say. So some people are saying, what if he was the father of her kids? She just had dementia and doesn't remember, or, you know, it's like the Kyle Reese effect from Terminator. The guy from the future goes to the past to be with the woman he loves. And who's born? John Connor. So, maybe?
Maybe. It could be that, you know, I think he just went back in time and maybe he lived out that time between, like, when the Captain America of that universe was in the ice.
And then, there's two Captain Americas.
Uh-huh.
And that's...
But he got to, like, take his place while he was in the ice.
Right. So then when that Captain America comes out of the ice, he'll do the same thing again. It's going to be a cycle.
So, but that, like, leaves the question, like, what about Sharon? Like Russo brothers, why did you put Cap with Sharon, and then Sharon's, like, not even in this movie, and you have Cap, like,
I don't want to know.
completely about her.
Maybe it's just a thank you kiss. Like, okay, thank you, bye-bye. I'll think of it that way.
They should have done it on the cheek then or something.
Yeah, I will admit. So I do have one thing to add about, I wish that with the dusted characters, you got to see some cool moments, but since you don't have a lot of time, it would have been cool to see, like, they had more to do in the final battle. Like, for example, Star-Lord, the only thing I remember him doing is when he sees Gamora and that's it. But I wish that they had more to do. Like, Black Panther, he was cool because he was running with the gauntlet. Doctor Strange was trying to hold the water. But I just wish that they interacted a little more, if that makes any sense.
Well, I think that was another problem with the movie, like the pacing. Like, I feel like they spent a little bit too much time...
On time travel?
No, not even on time travel. Like, what happened, like, right after the snap, they spent a little bit too much time on that. Like, they gave depressed Thor a little bit too much time. They also, like, when Scott was, like, wandering around and, like, trying to figure out what happened, he could have just gone to Cassie's house instead of, like, walking around that long. So I feel like they gave a little bit too much time for, like, these other things when they could have given it for, you know, other things that we would have liked to see.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But overall, the movie is pretty good. I mean... It's a hard movie to pull off. But the fact that the Russos were able to do that and at least give some crowd-pleasing moments is... We gotta at least appreciate that. Yeah, there is some confusing moments with time travel, but at the end of the day, there's good parts of the movie.
And, like, another plot hole was, like, Peter and, like, going back to high school.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be in high school.
Yeah, so... But I think that'll be answered in Far From Home. Because they said that there's, like, a missing gap of his age. So he is still 15, but some of his peers were either dusted. So, like, Ned was dusted. That's why they saw each other in high school.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
but maybe some of his other classmates are already in college. But it makes me wonder, did all of Peter's close friends get dusted? Is it how convenient that they all got dusted and are reunited again for Far From Home?
Everybody in his high school got dusted.
You know what would be funny? If Flash, that's his name, right? Flash Thompson, if he was the one who wasn't dusted and is in college and is like the big bully now, like an actual big bully to Peter Parker.
That would be funny.
He's like, I'm in college now, so I know more than you. You missed 5 years of your life. But that will be answered in Far From Home. So, yeah. So Peter still has to continue high school because it's like 5 years of his life was erased. And so was Ned's too, because Ned apparently, the writers confirmed that he was dusted. So yeah, but overall, I give this movie like a 9 out of 10.
I think so too.
Yeah.
9 out of 10.
Yeah, good fan service moments, crowd-pleasing moments. But maybe some parts were a little lagging and the whole time travel confusion. But as long as you don't think about it too hard and you keep Hulk's quote in mind, going to the past doesn't change your future, then you're good. And also, I'll miss Chris Evans as Cap, I'll miss RDJ as Iron Man, and I'll miss Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. We love you 3000.
We love you 3000.
So thank you guys for watching our spoiler review with us. We talked a lot about it, 2 hours worth, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Disney Avenger.
Rogue One Trash.
I hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
We love you 3000.
We love you 3000. Bye.